Minister, I appreciate that many of the things that this government is involved in are beset by confusion, lack of budgets, lack of management, and you've just been discussing that in relation to the drug situation. I want to raise with you now what exactly is happening in relation to the Rotunda, the biggest and the oldest maternity hospital in Ireland. It seems like another country since in 2015 the then Minister for Health and now Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar, announced that the Rotunda would be relocated to Connolly Hospital in Blanchardstown as part of a 6-year health capital programme. So in terms of what was outlined by the Taoiseach, we should actually be in the middle of the planning, if not actually going towards construction of a new maternity hospital on the northwest side of Dublin to allow the Rotunda to continue for another 100 years to provide the best of care to mothers and babies. And all I can find at the moment is really sad stories from the Rotunda of the hospital being overwhelmed and not really properly serviced in any proper way by the HSE. Now, when the announcement was made about the Rotunda, as I said, there was a timeline and there was a sense of planning about what was going to happen. Since then, there have been a number of studies undertaken. However, there's been absolutely no capital allocation being made. Now, I'm not going to go in to the difficulties besetting its sister hospital in Holles Street and the fact that we're now at another point of difficulty in relation to that hospital moving to the campus in Ellen Park. I just want to concentrate on the Rotunda and the impossible conditions that the leadership in the hospital, including the master of the Rotunda, Dr. Fergal Malone or Professor Fergal Malone, have outlined. The dangers for newborn babies and for babies who require intensive care, because with Blanchardstown now seemingly being put on quite a long finger, the facilities in the Rotunda getting older and more worn by the day and more overcrowded. We have had several serious outbreaks of infection. We have had harm and illness to babies, and we have even had proposals by the master that a new urgent care facility for newborn babies, for prem babies and so on, needs to be developed. And we can't actually get any answers out of the government that make sense, that offer a budget, that offer a timeline, and that most of all offer hope to the families who are looking forward to having a baby, to the women who are going to have a baby, to the babies who are going to be born, hopefully in maximum safety conditions. So I just want to know, Minister, and I know you're sent in here to answer what is not in your direct responsibility as a way of deflecting the issue. I'd just like to know what exactly is the Minister for Health for if he is not looking out for the care of mothers and babies in relation to maternity services. What's he for? I don't know what he's doing with his time. He seems to be down in places like Wicklow with school kids launching the broadband for $3 billion. I mean, an overpriced project, if ever there was one. Could not some of those billions been deflected to our maternity services? I mean, it doesn't seem a difficult thing to do. But I want to ask you, what is exactly going on in relation to the Rotunda? When is the move to Connolly going to take place? are the interim facilities that have been indicated for the west side of Parnell Square in terms of intensive care unit facilities for newborn babies, are they being progressed at all? Or literally, have they kind of vanished out of the Department of Health?
On Tara.
Thanks, Chair. And again, just to apologise to the Deputy Burton that Minister can't be here when I've been asked to take the topical issue, which I will as on other occasions. I suppose I will refer back to some of the issues that Deputy Burton has raised, but on behalf of Minister Harris, I would like to thank the Deputy for raising an important matter today. First, I would like to provide some background information on the decision to relocate Rotunda Hospital to the Connolly campus. And before I even begin to read this, can I just say I'm very familiar with Rotunda Hospital and a number of my own children having their own family in it as well, and my mother and other relatives of mine as well. And I know the history of the Rotunda Hospital and the expertise, and I know the master very well as well. Anyway, in line with best international practices, it is the government's policy a standalone maternity hospital should be located with a Q hospital in order to provide optimal clinical outcomes. The commitment is reaffirmed in the National Maternity Strategy, which was published in January 2016. As Deputy will be aware, the new Children's Hospital was originally planned for the Mater Hospital site and was proposed as a recommendation from the KPMG report Independent Review of Maternity and Gynaecological Services in the Greater Dublin Area in 2008 to redevelop the Rotunda Hospital on the Mater site. In 2012, the government decided to locate the new Children's Hospital at St James's campus. A detailed review was taken by the Department of Health. We considered a number of potential hosts for both sites, for both hospitals. The review examined a range of factors, including demographics, a range of clinical criteria, as well as planning risks and site capacity. In addition, the department engaged with a number of divisions within the HSE and with the master of both Rotunda and Coombe as part of their review process. In June 2015, the government decided that the Coombe Hospital would be located in St James's Hospital campus, while the Rotunda Hospital would be redeveloped on the Connolly Hospital campus. More recently, the Minister for Health also engaged with the Master of the Rotunda, the RCSI Hospital Group and the HSE in relation to the relocation of the Rotunda Hospital to Connolly. This included holding a meeting with all these parties in July of this year. In terms of funding and the Rotunda relocation project, Project Ireland 2040 provides £10.9 billion for health capital developments across the country, including funding to support the implementation of the National Maternity Strategy. The relocation of the Rotunda Hospital was one of the key infrastructure projects which will be funded under Project Ireland 2040. However, it is important that we carefully plan all capital projects to meet population health needs and achieve value for money. And I understand work is ongoing. While the Minister for Health is not in a position to outline the year provision for any additional maternity hospital projects at this stage, it will be considered through the process of determination of service priorities and in context with the health capital planning. I can assure the House that the Government is committed to implementing its policies to relocate all standalone maternity hospitals with an adult acute hospital. As the Deputy will appreciate, the Rotunda relocation project is at an early stage and will be required to process through appraisal, planning, design and tender before a time frame of funding requires can be established. To conclude, I've been advised that the project brief for the relocation of the Rotunda, as well as the Coombe and the University Hospital in Limerick to a Q Hospital campus, will be processed in 2020. And I'll come back to Deputy Burton's other issues. Thanks.
Well, I mean, it's really, it's an incredible comment on a Taoiseach who in 2015 announced as Minister that the Rotunda Hospital, which we all know is a very venerable hospital in old buildings, which has provided at this point centuries of care to women and babies in Dublin, is from the Minister's reply now just going to get a wave of the hand and be left carry on in the really dangerous situation that the Master recently described in respect of neonatal babies and in respect of the infection risk of the hospital. Because what your answer has basically said is this government hasn't allocated a cent or a euro to the Rotunda Hospital project. Not only that, you haven't even actually brought together a design team to actually begin to put together the details of what the plan for the Rotunda would be. You have said nothing about the current situation of the Rotunda and its problems in relation specifically to infection risk and to the need, which the Master has described, for a new neonatal intensive care unit in the context of what your reply implies, that the Connolly project seems to have slipped the Taoiseach's mind once he made a few announcements about it, and neither he nor his government has done anything more. And the Minister for Health doesn't even bother to come in here today to answer a really important question that's vital for many women, not just in Dublin but in Ireland, and particularly for their babies.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thanks, sorry, I was just writing something there that Joan said. Well, first of all, can I just refer back to the open statement from Deputy Burton about that Minister Harris and this government doesn't care about women and children. Nothing could be further from the truth. And that is why we're building a state-of-the-art National Children's Hospital in this country. For the first time, children who are very, very vulnerable and very sick from the Coombe, from the Rotunda, from Holles Street are brought to the Crumlin Hospital, which we all know, and I live and been in it many times, is in need of a new National Children's Hospital. Regarding the site and the relocation of the Rotunda Hospital, can I make it very clear to Deputy Burton? But you know, you were in government with ourselves way back then, and you know about the budget and what we were left to pick up, and you were left to pick up as a minister in the government and the last time when there wasn't any money to put anywhere, never mind into a capital plan. For the first time with the development of the Project Ireland 2040, we have an opportunity to plan and reach out and have a vision of what we want in this country around maternity services and looking after women and children. There's nobody will tell me in this room that this government do not care about women and children. We have had a problem with funding. We are back on track in many ways, but I will convey to Minister Harris, Deputy Burton's disappointment that the Minister could not be here, and will convey to him also regarding the reply that has been given, that there has been no, as you stated yourself, there has been no plan, no design and no tender ready. And I will reply that to them. But I will not stand here, Ken Corla, and listen to the fact to be told that this government does not care for women and children. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I, as a representative of the present government, will stand here and defend that all the time. I'm sorry to be so over the top about it, but I really believe that we have excellent maternity hospitals, including Rotunda, the Coombe and Holles Street, and all of them have gone by their sell-by date, all of them. And I know in my heart and soul that the Rotunda needs to be relocated, Holles Street needs to be relocated, and the Coombe. But it's not down to the staff, and it's certainly not down to the masters of Rotunda as well.
Thank you, Minister.
It's down to the fact that in the past, these hospitals weren't kept up to a certain standard that could keep them running as long as they could. And now we're faced with this dilemma that all of our maternity hospitals need to be relocated and redesigned.
Right,
but I will bring back Deputy Burton's views to the Minister on the fact that she believes that nothing is being done to forward this plan. It's in the Ireland Project 2040.
The third item comes from Deputy